Okay, so we are live with another Batman the Animated Series watch along. This episode is going to be called "Read My Lips," which is yeah, maybe at this point a kind of dated political reference, but it was a common saying for many years before this episode would have been written. But in the early part of the 1990s, 1992 to be precise, I believe this episode was produced. Uh, there is no way that somebody made an episode of any show called "Read My Lips" that wasn't. If you heard the phrase "read my lips" at that point, you thought of the then current president George Herbert Walker Bush. I don't know if he was still the president. I don't remember. I think maybe he was voted out of office by this time. I think maybe Bill Clinton was in office at that time. But still, it would have been a phrase that would have been more associated with that particular president. That was the first President Bush, arguably the more competent President Bush, but that's damning with faint praise. I don't want to get too into politics on this channel, but the Bushes were pretty horrible. Anyway, this episode introduces Scarface and the ventriloquist, and they were villains that had just recently been introduced in the Batman comics at that time. Kind of the rock star team that was working on Batman titles in the late 80s and early 90s would have been Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle, two names that unfortunately are no longer with us today. They have both passed on to comic book Valhalla, but at the time that Batman the Animated Series was on the air, they were probably like two of the biggest names and two of the best creators working on those titles. So Grant would go on to, or Alan Grant would go on to work on the series up until I believe around the turn of the century, around like 1999, when they did a house cleaning on all the Batman writers, and that was around the time of No Man's Land. So unfortunately, a lot of really good Batman talent was lost at the time, moved on to other things, and was replaced by a lot of newer talent, and some of that newer talent was really good, and some of it not so good. But honestly, if I had my way, I'd still have a lot of those 90s guys working on Batman comics to this day. They're just that good. At least the ones that are still alive, I would still have working on stuff. Man, I love Batman comics in that period from like the late 80s to the late 90s, where you had guys like Alan Grant and Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan and Kelly Jones. Oh man, I loved Kelly Jones. I know he's a guy who's like, his artwork is kind of divisive among some fans, but to me his artwork was just so unique and atmospheric. I just loved it so much. And then you had like the Batman the Animated Series comics themselves, the Batman Adventures with guys like Ty Templeton and Kelly Puckett and Rick Burkett, and oh man, Mike Parobeck. Talk about another guy we lost way too soon. Like he passed away even back in the 90s. He was a fantastic artist. I loved his stuff. But anyway, the ventriloquist and Scarface were created by Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle, and they were one of the things that they were trying to do a lot with the early part of their run was to create some new Batman villains, not just to rely on the old classics, but to kind of try to forge ahead and create some new ones. And I would say, out of the villains that were created by Grant and Brayfogle, Scarface and the ventriloquist were probably the best. I mean, they had a few that you still see occasionally these days, like Cornelius Stirk or the Rat Catcher. Maybe even the Corrosive Man. Haven't seen Cadaver in a while, but he might be skulking about someplace. But Scarface and the ventriloquist, I think, were the ones that really caught on with the fans, and they were popular enough that they were able to make an appearance on Batman the Animated Series, like in the early part of their career. So let's, without further ado, go ahead and start the episode. So we got our Warner Brothers blimp, Warner Brothers shield turning into the blimp. I mean, panning down, and there's our bank, and there's our shifty-eyed thugs, and boom! So yeah, unlike some of the other villains from the comics where I had to wait like almost a decade of my life to see them in another medium, like say Ra's al Ghul or Poison Ivy, got to see Ventriloquist and Scarface right off the bat, and I was pleased with that. I did think that the design of the Ventriloquist could have been a little closer to how he was drawn in the comics, where he almost looked kind of like a little more Ben Franklin-esque. This one he looks a little more sort of like, I don't know, like Bud Cort or something. But it's not a bad design. Story by Alan Burnett and Michael Reeves. Teleplay Joe L. Ransdale. Directed by Boyd Kirkland. There we go. I got all the writer and director credits out. Nice jazzy music. Fitting for like a villain who's as inspired by old school gangsters as the Ventriloquist is. But he's not exactly an old school gangster. He is very much in the vein of the classic Batman supervillain, as we will see, even with his old school gangster influence.
Not a bad night's date.
He's going to get robbed by Peter Parker, and then I missed the part where that's my problem. Or not robbed by Peter Parker. He's going to get robbed, and Peter Parker's going to get away. I misspoke. Sorry, my wires got crossed in my brain. It happens sometimes. Love that music. Part of what I really like with these animated episodes is like growing up in the 80s as I did, you know, watching cartoons like Masters of the Universe and G.I. Joe and Transformers and pretty Super Friends, like any kind of action adventure cartoon. You know, they basically had like a few stock score pieces that they would recycle and reshuffle, and you know, Batman the Animated Series, every episode was fully scored. You know, I mean, occasionally you might hear like some little piece of music repeating here or there, but usually every episode was like an entirely original score. And that meant every villain kind of had their own little leitmotif. Like, you know, this I guess kind of like the ventriloquist / Scarface theme. Pretty cool.
It went down smooth, Scarface, just like you said. That's just the beginning, boys. Soon we're gonna own this town.
And they shoot it in such a way where, like, you can't really tell. If you don't know, you might not immediately think that Scarface is a puppet. And even then, the ventriloquist lips not moving.
Oh, yeah, that little lip movement that you get when somebody's doing a voice or anything.
What is it, Jim?
I'm not a ventriloquist myself, so.
The boss puts heists together smooth as a Swiss watchmaker. What have you got for me?
That's some great film noirish kind of hard-boiled dialogue.
But a home video enthusiast think the gang leaving the scene with their latest crime. Interested?
Always.
Let me know if you need any help.
So he didn't just knock on the door and ask to be let in. He just came and went mysteriously, like he had some kind of ninja training.
Not much of a plot, is it, done?
Oh, what a coincidence. I was just talking about the Batman.
They're clever. Masks, gloves, no way they can be identified.
Except... Enhance. Enhance.
A tattoo.
Enhance. Rhino bursting through bars. He's an easy one to pick out.
Who you looking for, Bat Breath? First guess is you. Don't get white with me. I might not like you. You're breaking my heart, Rhino. I ain't scared of you, but you ain't gonna trick me into taking a swing at you. You got nothing on me. You seem to have me confused with the police, Rhino. I want information, and I'll get it any way I please. Who's your boss?
Nice.
You want information? Watch the news.
Yeah. Shame him getting a nice suit dirty like that.
How about using it for something other than blood hunting? Well, if it isn't Charles Rhino Daly. Why don't you roll
Look at the
over?
size of that guy.
He must probably waiting up.
He's got to be at least 7 feet tall.
Guy like that, I'm not so sure a bullet would stop him.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not so sure a tank would stop him.
You gotta love the way that she interweaves the Batman theme with that jazzy music.
Hey, man, it's important. Batman's on my case. I'll see what I can do.
I love this guy's design too, the rat-like guy. I think his name is actually Rat or something like that. Male number 2.
This better be good news, Monk.
Even Batman thinks it's weird.
Okay, talk, Rhino. What's so important I can't get a good night's sleep? Batman's got me thinking, Scarface. I don't know how, but he came down on me like a cast iron steak. Batman, we're talking real trouble. What are we gonna? Hey, who you talking to, Bree? He's just a hired help. I'm the boss here. You talk to me. Sorry, boss. He's new. He don't know the score. Yeah, well, he better get with the program pretty quick. I don't stand for no lack of respect. This Batman business can only mean one thing. We got us
A squealer.
No, boss, that should be. None of us want to screw up a sweet deal like this. Glad to hear it, Bugsy. Because if there isn't, I find him right for that rat. Look, Scarface, remember your blood pressure.
Most gangsters would have said curtains, but
He's really genius, Scarface. You mean the ventriloquist isn't he? Nah, like Scarface said, he's just hired help. Scarface, he's the real brain.
I like that Rhino genuinely believes that it's the puppet calling the shots. Batman doesn't even know what to make of this. Like, Batman has seen some weird stuff, but this is taking the cake. Like last week, I was just dealing with like this immortal eco-terrorist who is, resurrecting himself for hundreds of years with a chemical bath, but that's nothing compared to this puppet. You got to also remember that Chucky was a really popular character around this time. Like, I think Child's Play had just come out like a couple of years before, and they were still making the Child's Play movies around this time. Like, I think this was in between the first and third ones. So the whole killer doll thing was kind of part of the zeitgeist. Hmm.
My advice to you, don't make a sound. I'm looking for evidence. Evidence of your previous robberies. Robberies? Don't be coy.
I think maybe the idea with them adjusting the design of the ventriloquist and making him a little bit more of a pipsqueak was to make him seem a little less physically intimidating. I mean, he wasn't really necessarily like, a physically intimidating guy to begin with. Like I said, he was kind of more Ben Franklin looking, but
Don't let him follow me with you. You don't know how dangerous he is. He sees me talking to you. I'm going. Please.
and they are both voiced by different actors.
I need my duty rest here, Sonny. That's twice you wake me up. Do it again, you're going to be wearing a fine overcoat, get me? Sweat. What's going on? And don't feed me no out. Nothing, sir. I was just having a...
But you notice, like, even though he is like,
window open.
what do they call it nowadays? Dissociative personality disorder. Like, he does genuinely believe it. He's got Scarface like sleeping in this opulent bed, and he himself is just in this little hovel, basically, with like a little cot.
It's called multiple personality syndrome disorder.
That's what they called it back then, anyway.
One brain, completely separate. Not everyone knows what the other is thinking. Listen. Batman's so hot. Let's see him swim Gotham Bay concrete boots. A good idea, Mr. Scarface. Got your bow tie on right, Sonny. Say, who dressed you anyway? You're such a killer, Mr. Scarface. I swear it was two separate people. You're not alone. Even the computer is fooled. When I studied with Zatara the magician, he taught me about
a little throwback to the Zatanna episode.
Voice seemed to come across the room. This ventriloquist could give Zatara lessons. You had your share on.
That's another change they made from the comic book version. In the comic book, he's not supposed to be a particularly good ventriloquist. Even the way they write his dialogue, it's like he can't pronounce the letter B. So it's Catman. I love this. Little legs swinging around.
See, they think no one expect the shipments on a line, but they're like you, Bubs, stupid, not smart like me. We'll slip in, get the goods, and skedaddle before the ship leaves the harbor. One more thing, I smell a double cross. Woke up last night with one of them whatchamacallits,
Premonition.
Premonition? Don't put words in my mouth. All I'm saying is I got this feeling somebody here is out to get me, and I'm gonna get that price. I don't know who it is yet, but I will.
The look on Rhino's face.
Now here's the details. Listen up, I ain't gonna repeat myself.
I think they do a really good job also with conveying that Scarface is a puppet. It's the sort of thing where like sometimes it's difficult to get that across in animation. That like if somebody is a character is actually a puppet or a doll, sometimes they still come across as just looking like a tiny human. If that makes any sense. But you can definitely tell that Scarface is supposed to be like a puppet. It's got that right sort of creepy feel about it. Batman's got kind of that darker coloring to his suit in this episode, kind of like what he had in Demon's Quest. And Rhino is like superhumanly strong. Platinum. Batman's buried under it. I'm pretty sure if this was real life, that would have killed him. But you know, it's a cartoon, so he's kind of, and they've captured him. Those sharpened mannequin fingers.
Just another dummy. It was a trap. That start to finish. And you fell for it like a world-class sucker. The dummy here spilled the beans you fed in his room. I had the room searched and looky what I found.
You're not as smart as you think you are, Scarface.
I'd watch my mouth if I were you back. One bullet through that rope and your history. Get my point?
How do you think I found this place? The phone book? I had help. Inside help.
Playing into Scarface's own paranoia.
Which one of you louses is it?
You ain't me, boss.
I know it ain't you, Rhino. You're too stupid to be a traitor.
Okay, boss.
But whoever it is, they're gonna pay big time. Who is it? You don't talk, you get the ultimate massage.
And if I tell?
Maybe you just get run over by a
Tempting, but no.
Have it your way, Rhino.
Hold it.
This is getting old back. Last chance. Who's the traitor?
Him. The ventriloquist.
No, he's lying. I told him when he came into my room. So what? Maybe you did because I had you cornered. Shut up, you blockhead.
And remember, they already established in the episode, gun on the mantle, Batman knows how to throw his voice.
So what? You're a ventriloquist. You're also a lying, yellow, liver-belly, two-faced. Oh, Scarface, not the boy. I never.
Even feeding me information in return for legal protection.
You're going up the river, Sawdust Parade. Where's the four-flusher? Do it now! Yeah, but boss, we ventilate the ventriloquist. You know, I'm surrounded by traitors.
His delusion is so deep, he's ordering them to kill himself. He doesn't even realize it.
Go ahead, please, beg. It ain't gonna do you no good. You must speak your loud, you know. Hit, boys. Get out. No problem.
We've already established Rhino's sheer brute strength. He lifts Batman as easily as Batman would lift a fat guy. And even his most powerful punches are having, like, no effect. It's going to take more than strength to beat him, Batman. You're going to have to use finesse. Rhino, like, you even need a weapon. He actually dented the shelf with his head. Uh-oh. He winds up shooting Scarface. You know, sometimes with these villains, you can't help but feel sorry for them. And it's like, even if you're kind of sympathetic towards them, though, they're still bad guys. And at the end of the episode, you're glad they got their comeuppance. But with the ventriloquist, he really is a victim of his own mental illness. He just can't help but make another Scarface. So, anyway, good episode. I really enjoyed it. They did a good job of adapting the. Oh, it actually is two different. I thought it was two different actors playing ventriloquist and Scarface. So, you know, when it fooled the back computer, it fooled me too. No, it's George DeZunza is both. I had no idea he was playing ventriloquist. I knew he was Scarface, but I couldn't remember who was playing ventriloquist. I'm even more impressed now that I realize that it's the same guy playing both. Hello, Sean Franklin. You caught us right at the tail end. How you Thanksgiving? Do you like pecan pie? I love pecan pie. Pecan pie is actually my favorite kind of pie. It's as far as I'm concerned, for Thanksgiving, pie is the definitive dessert. And the three pies that I most associate with Thanksgiving, no particular order, you got pumpkin pie, apple pie, and pecan pie. I suppose sweet potato pie could fit in there, but to me, the sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie are similar enough. I couldn't tell the difference, honestly. But if you gave me a slice of one, I wouldn't know which one it was unless you told me. But yeah, pecan pie is my favorite pie. We had kind of a non-traditional Thanksgiving at my sister's place, so we didn't have like the standard turkey and dressing and gravy and all that stuff. And she had a pumpkin pie, but I didn't get any pecan pie at Thanksgiving this year because it was just the pumpkin pie. But I did go by Walmart the other day and bought some stuff to take with me to work for lunch, and they had like the little pies for like 50 cents. And they had pecan pie for that. So I got myself a pecan pie for my dessert to take with me to work. So that was good. So, but you caught me just at the tail end of this episode. You can go back and watch the rest of it if you want, but I'm just about to read the ending credits. We got Kevin Conroy as Batman, Bob Hastings as Commissioner Gordon, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred, Earl Bowen as Rhino, George Sunza as Ventriloquist and Scarface, Joe Piscopo as the manager, and Neil Ross as Ratso. I was thinking it was something rat, but I couldn't remember what it was. So, yeah, Neil Ross. Again, I always like to point out he was Shipwreck on G.I. Joe, among other things. But very talented, very prolific voice actor. We've seen him a lot on Batman, the animated series. So, and on the Spider-Man animated series, he would have played the Green Goblin. Have you tried 7-Up? I've never had a 7-Up cake. That sounds interesting. I think I would like to try that. That would probably be pretty good. So I'll have to see if I can find one at some point. All right, so let's see. What is our next episode? More episodes. Our next episode will be Fire from Olympus, which introduces Maxie Zeus. So another new episode for our show. He's a one-shot villain. He never appears after this episode. That's like the only appearance of Maxie Zeus. And then after that, we are almost at the end of the first season of Batman the Animated Series. So I'm having to scroll all the way to the very end. Fire from Olympus, Shadow of the Bat, Part 1 and 2. We'll watch those the same day. Mudslide with Clayface, and then Paging the Crime Doctor. That will be where we take a little bit of a break, and we will watch Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And then we will return to Batman the Animated Series with the last episode of Season 1, which is The Worry Men. So that's how we're going to do that. Really looking forward to Mask of the Phantasm. A great movie. I watched it again fairly recently. That was the movie that the day that Kevin Conroy passed away, and I wanted to watch something B-tass. That was the thing that I picked. Great movie. And then I watched it again at least one time since then. I watch it fairly often because I do very much enjoy that movie. But yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch it with you guys and give my thoughts on the episode as we watch it. And then we'll be on to Season 2. And Season 2 will begin with House and Garden, then Sideshow, Avatar, not the thing with the James Cameron's Blue Thunder Smurfs, Trial, Harlequinade, we might watch that one again, even though I've already done a watch along of it. Bane, Second Chance, Riddler's Reform, Baby Doll, Time Out of Joint, Harley's Holiday, again, might rewatch that one. Make 'em Laugh, looking forward to that one. Batgirl Returns, I always love Batgirl. Lock Up, Deep Freeze, The Terrible Trio, Showdown with Jonah Hex, Catwalk, 3 guesses who the villain is in that episode. Catwalk, in terms of air date order, comes after Batgirl Returns. But chronologically, Catwalk should come before Batgirl Returns. So that's interesting. Bullet for Bullock, The Lion and the Unicorn, and then we will be on to the new Batman Adventures. So I guess The Lion and the Unicorn is the last episode of Batman the Animated Series proper. So and then I'll have to think of something else to do as a watch along because I'll be done with these. So anyway, if you've been enjoying these, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this episode, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.